Our Packers won on the road in California, otherwise known as Lambeau West, and now it's back to Green Bay to face those spunky Cardinals. Let's talk about it with you. Coming up on your Packers Fan Podcast.
I'm Scott Clark from the Game and Outsider Podcast, and I have a confession to make you all. In the craziness of getting ready this morning, I neglected to don my Green Bay Packers victory tie before heading to work. I'm kind of ashamed of myself, but I'm still very happy to be joining my good friend to celebrate another win this week.
I'm aghast at the victory tie not making an appearance, but that's okay. I'm Wayne Henderson, and I'm just now starting to relax after that crazy game in Los Angeles. So on this 303rd edition of your Packers Fan Podcast, we're going to recap all that we loved from the big win in LA. And thank you for all of your excellent listener feedback. We're going to be sharing that as well.
We'll also preview next Sunday's Cards game at Lambeau, and which will include my keys to a victory over those pesky Cardinals. Looking very forward to that game, especially after what happened this past week. But let's look at the past first and talk about this game that took place this past Sunday, starting with the leaders in the Packers-Cardinals game. Obviously, taken under center, Mr. Jordan Love, 15 for 26 for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a new thing, Wayne, touchdowns.
That's worth 8 points, right?
2 touchdowns, 1 interception. What a crazy interception that was, by the way, but we'll get to that. Passer rating of 95.7. On the rushing side, Josh Jacobs led the charge this week, 19 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. On the receiving side, Tucker Kraft, 4 catches for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. And on defense, Evan Williams had 10 tackles, 4 of them being all on his own. So solid showing there. I love how the names are different every week.
I was thinking same thing.
Outside of Jordan Love, I mean, we had Willis as well there for a couple games. So
true.
I love the variety. That means things are being spread out, which is what makes for solid Packers football.
Indeed. In fact, it didn't start out all that solid at the very beginning, but I wasn't worried at all. The opening drive, Love got sacked on 3rd down. We were forced to punt, giving the Rams the ball around the 35-yard line. It's almost like winning, the coin toss or whatever and getting the ball first doesn't really matter that much because it's always just feeling out the other team and the turf and the stadium. And, I was not concerned at all.
Well, and you had a right not to be because on the opening defensive drive, we did the same thing, forced a 3 and out. There was a penalty on the punt, but wound up having to the Packers had to start on their own 4-yard line, which, wound up being a good thing. And we'll get to that in just a second.
Indeed, because there was an absolutely huge catch by Reed on that drive, 53-yard pass into triple coverage. I thought it was going to be an interception for sure, but
so did I.
Somehow Reed came down with it, and it was capped off by a second effort run by Jacobs, and this was Josh Jacobs' first touchdown as a Green Bay Packer. I love seeing all the firsts happening, and this gave the Packers the early lead of 7-0.
Yeah, I will say, Wayne, though, I obviously love the result of this play. I did not like that decision to throw that ball because, like you said, I was certain that thing was being picked off. How Reed came up with that blows my mind. So I was a little frustrated. I was like, stop throwing. You don't have to force the deep ball. We do so much better when we just wear that defense down and take them 10 yards at a time. And granted, this one turned in our favor, but it could have very easily gone the other direction. So I'd much rather go back to fundamental football. With that said, Jacob's second effort was awesome to see. It looked like he was clearly going to be just stopped right at the line. He bounced off, rolled out to the right, got there in the corner. It was a really great effort, and I was so happy for him to get that first touchdown wearing green and yellow.
It was great to see, and it's all about playing the angle. And he had the advantage and the toughness, and hey, we will absolutely take it. And you mentioned deep ball. That was a deep ball.
Yeah, it really was. He does have an arm on him. It's not an Aaron Rodgers arm, but it was still really good to see nonetheless. On the next drive, we had a nice stop on 4th down. Wayne, were you like me, kind of just waiting for a flag to get thrown out as soon as
Always.
that stop happened?
Always.
Man, and they were stopped, well into the red zone. So sadly, we did have to punt, complete with our first flag of the game, which was a delay of game. But still, I would rather, push that ball further down there than give them an opportunity to score in the red zone. So the defense was doing really solid things this week.
And I'm so thankful for our punter, Waylon. He is doing fantastic things week in and week out. But we had a beautiful sack by Cooper in the latter half of the second quarter. And not only was it a fabulous sack, it knocked the Rams out of field goal range and forced them to punt. And that's a shame.
I love it when that happens. That's always really cool to see. And who knew that we were going to be talking positively about our kicker this week? He did nail his first field goal of the day. It was a picture-perfect kick right down the middle, 46-yarder, and he hit everything all day. All the point-after touchdowns were good. Everything was solid. No complaints from him this week. So apparently they listened and did some, after-school practicing with our kicker. So things are looking a little bit better there. I know it's only one game, but hey, I will take the improvement for sure.
And speaking of improvements, the game improved in a hurry as well because we had a turnover in the early moments of the third quarter. Enigbari punched the ball out of Williams' hands, forcing a fumble, recovered by McKinney. That guy is everywhere all of a sudden. And Green Bay starts again at their own 30. And 2 plays later, what a play. Love passes to Tucker Kraft for a 66-yard catch and run for a touchdown, extending our lead to 17-13. And wow, Tucker Kraft, I saw somewhere online, somebody who uses technology to measure these things said that at one point Kraft reached a particular speed, which is the fastest speed by a tight end in like 20 years or something like that.
He was booking. It's, again, tight ends are traditionally larger fellas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
So how quickly he was booking and stiff arming the defender, just pushed him to the ground. I didn't think he was going to make the end zone. Honestly, I was like, well, we'll get in the red zone here and have a chance to punch it in. And no, he's just like, I'm gonna take care of it right now. And very happy with those results for sure. And speaking of McKinney, yes, 5 weeks in a row now, Wayne, that he gets another pick. He intercepted Stafford on the very next drive. That is 5 games in a row with an interception, making him the first Packer to do so since 1970. But on top of that, that's 6 turnovers in total over 5 games. Because if you count the fumble recovery, 6 turnovers by one player in 5 games is just absurd. Holy cow. That was just really awesome to see.
Exactly. And listener Dan has a neat little story about all of that in his feedback coming up a bit later. But I wanted to know if you were ready for the dagger at the point that it happened, Scott, because I know sitting at home watching on TV, I was anxiously awaiting for the dagger because it was a little stressful on the day. Yep. LA was driving solidly down the field. We had a 4th down stop with just a minute to go. Victory formation, which is a beautiful formation, not super exciting, but still beautiful. And we ended up winning the game. That's right. We had more points than the Rams when time ran out, 24-19. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go indeed, especially because all they needed was a touchdown to win. There wasn't even a chance to block an extra point or anything like that. It was, they were only down by 5. So it was, I was on the edge of my seat. Just thought, please don't let this game end this way. But thankfully able to pull it off. So very, very happy.
And it seemed like half of the games that were being played yesterday were all coming down to the wire. So many games were so close. It was a great
day of football, just in general. Just good football all day long.
Good stuff. Not everything was good, though. There were some lowlights, Scott. We allowed the Rams to tie the game in the first quarter because the Rams dominated on the ground at that point. They were in the air, though, on this drive. Caught us off guard. We made 2 big stops at the goal line, but wound up allowing Calvin Williams to jump into the end zone, which made it 7-7 at that point. So I'm like, okay, is it going to be tit for tat all day? Oh, buckle in.
I really thought that's what we're going to be. It's just going to be a shootout, but Thankfully, things wound up in our favor. But I want to talk about this pick by Jordan Love towards the 2-minute warning of the first half. If you remember, Love was nearly tackled in the end zone. He backed up even further and then just kind of threw this pass. At that point, it would have taken the safety, those 2 points instead. The ball wound up in the hands of McCullough, who ran it back to the 5 yards to score. This was Love's first ever pick six. So there was lots of firsts this game. This one I don't like nearly as much. But thankfully, the Rams missed the PAT. So the Rams were leading only by a score of 13-7 at this point in the game.
That entire play was insane because as a school teacher, you know that it's bad math to pick 6 points over the 2 points that would have been from the safety.
Right.
And that interception was so close to the end zone that if it was not a pick six, Rams fans would be up in arms.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have got in there anyway, but such as it is, I'm happy with the final score, so I'll just stay with that.
Okay, let's go with that. It's a victory. The Rams did have a huge drive, which we allowed in the fourth quarter, which did make me very nervous indeed. Started at their own 9-yard line, marched all the way down the field, capped off the drive with a 1-yard pass to Robinson. Thankfully, the Packers prevented the 2-point conversion. We were on fire in that respect, and the Packers were leading 24-19. And it just seemed too easy for the Rams at some points during that game to just go down the field.
Yeah, but like you said, the defense really stuck it to him when it mattered on those fourth down conversions and on the 2-point conversion. Really, really happy with the defense. I mean, you can't ask for a whole lot more with 6 turnovers from one player in 5 games. I'm just going to keep saying that this entire episode because it's just ridiculous how awesome that is.
Exactly. So we have our weekly poll question, Scott. We post that in our Facebook group at packerscommunity.com as well as on X. And I know you still like to call it Twitter. That's fine. And I want to give you special thanks, Scott, for coming up with the poll question and the options this week because I was drawing a blank, and this is perfect because you wanted to know which improvement from last week do you, the Packers fan, appreciate the most?
Well, we got 4 options here that we had put. The first was fewer penalties. The second was Narvison without a miss. The third was Love's first win of the season. And the last one I put on there was LaFleur's temper under control. And we did have a write-in vote. No legitimate improvements, only turnovers, bailing out the defense. This was added by Garrett Stritzel, throwing some shade.
I'll say.
Yeah. What do you think, Wayne?
I mean, most any of those would have been a great choice, but this is strange to say, but I'm going to go with Narvison not missing an extra point or a field goal or anything. To me, I thought that was a huge improvement. Will it be just a temporary aberration? I don't know, but for this week, I'm accepting of the loveliness that was all those extra points and the field goals that we got. How about you?
I feel you on that one, and I am very, very happy with that. It's clear they made some effort to have a conversation with them and do some extra practice. But to me, the fewer penalties is the much better improvement, especially because of how young this team is. They are still the youngest team in the NFL, and the fact that they were able to tighten that up for a game like this on the road in California, which traditionally has been incredibly difficult for us. No matter where in California we play, it's just very much a struggle. So yeah, I'm going to say the fewer penalties because that has been our downfall for years. Is keeping the laundry off the field, and they did a much better job this week.
And I'm hoping for even more improvement in that this coming week. So when you combine all the votes that came in on Facebook in the group as well as on X, Narvison not getting a miss. Huge winner, 59% of the votes, followed by fewer penalties, like you were suggesting, getting 31%. 7% of the votes went for Love getting his first win of the season. No votes in either Twitter, X, or Facebook for LaFleur's temper being under control. And I think that's because I think we kind of liked it that he was out of control. And then 3% of the votes for no legitimate improvements at all, only turnovers, bailing out the defense.
Ooh, man. We did have some comments in the poll in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. Garrett expounded on his write-in vote. He said, turnovers continue to bail out defense. Too many open players downfield, no legitimate improvements, too many mistakes, too many drops by wide receivers, too many penalties. I feel like the penalties were a lot less this week. Were they not?
I'm not 100% sure. I know they were down. I don't know by how much. It seemed like in the third quarter I was pulling my hair out for some reason, whether it was just the defensive play I was waiting for him to step up further, but all's well that ends well with a victory. And Janelle commented on the poll saying, I'm going to say no kicks missed because I told my husband that I feel like we're under a Crosby curse. So that felt good not to have a miss for once.
I didn't even think about that. Was it our first game without a miss?
I don't know if it was the first one, but it sure seems like it is.
Sure did seem like it, yeah. Thanks for the comments, everybody. Remember, you too can be part of the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community and be part of those conversations at packerscommunity.com. Check out all the fun, especially for our live game chat session during the Packers-Cardinals matchup. I will tell you, I will not be watching the game live this coming weekend, so Wayne is going to have to bear the mantle of that one. But looking forward to watching the game on recording or something like that after I get home from a hard weekend in Rockford this weekend.
Now, inquiring minds do want to know, will you find a way to at least see the kickoff?
I mean, absolutely. I have to.
That's what I've heard.
Rule.
Yes. Okay.
It's the family tradition. I will have it on my phone. My wife and I watch the games on YouTube Live, actually. So I have YouTube Live on my phone on the application. So I will be able to at least watch kickoff. And I'm pretty sure I'll have it in my ear listening, while it's in my pocket throughout the day, but it'll probably destroy my battery. But I gotta know what's happening. So
price you gotta pay, Scott. So
yeah.
Let's check in with listener voicemails, emails, and other comments. Packers fans, please let your voice be heard. Be part of the show, recording your voice on your phone or your computer and emailing that feedback to us to, coincidentally enough, feedback at Packers Fan Podcast right after the game, or you can call the PFP voicemail at +1 920-3PACK-GO.
In addition to your thoughts about the Vikings and Packers game, we also need your Wager O Fun score predictions for the Week 6 matchup when the Packers host the Texans. So we're definitely looking ahead to that. Deadline for your calls will be Mondays at 6 p.m. Central Time. Wayne, what do we got for our first voicemail?
Go, 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 Pack, go! Happy Victory Monday. First fun little nugget. That was the first regular season win in Los Angeles since 1966. Wayne, you might remember that one. Were you there? Anyways, that was a real interesting game. The cardiac pack is back. It felt like the game plan was very disjointed at times. It was run, then pass. That run D, oh my gosh, does it need to improve or what? They allowed Kyron Williams to run for an average of 4.6 yards a carry. That's unacceptable. The D-line is not getting any pressure on the quarterback, and I expected a lot more with the Rams offensive line that's been completely decimated. I don't think a single player on their offensive line is a week 1 starter because of all their injuries that they've had. Jordan Love, with the poor decision to try to throw the ball away, and resulted in a pick 6 instead of taking a 2-point, safety. He even admitted that in his post-game presser. But he did respond amazingly with 9 straight completions, 2 of which went to Tucker Kraft Pack and Cheese. If you were on the Facebook thread, Scott said that his wife said that. I thought that was absolutely awesome, hilarious. Kraft Pack and Cheese. And I came up with another one. How about Kraft Yak and Cheese for yards after the catch? Because he had an amazing 66-yard run on that first touchdown that he had. Reed with that 53-yard catch in triple coverage. I don't know what Love was thinking when he threw it, but he knew that he had a playmaker and Jaden Reed, and that he'd go out and make that catch. It was so awesome hearing the Go Pack Goes on TV loud and clear, even though this is an opposing team stadium. Thanks, Jay Walters, for sharing your pictures and your video, and others that were on the Facebook Packers Community Podcast page. for sharing any of your pictures. It was awesome to see so many Packer fans in the stadium. How about Xavier McKinney with 5 straight weeks of having an interception and picking up the Enagbare forced fumble? He was already celebrating the recovery, and all of a sudden the ball just popped up, and he picked it up and ran it for back for a couple of yards. That interception that he made, that is the first time in team history that there's been a player joining the team and making 5 straight weeks with having an interception since 1943, and he's also the first to do it in the entire league since the AFL and NFL merger. If that man, if he continues on this streak, even if he doesn't have an interception every week, but he continues his level of play, that man needs to be Defensive Player of the Year, no doubt. Also, probably the best free agency pickup since Reggie White. And I don't say that lightly. He is just, a breath of fresh air for this defense. Now we got to turn our attention back to Lambeau Field when we host the Arizona Cardinals and yet another mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray. They just beat the San Francisco 49ers in a nail-biter. I think they won by like 2 points. I mean, came down to the last play. What do we think here? Wager of fun? I think this is going to be a barn burner. Let's go with 35 for the Packers and 28 for the Arizona Cardinals. Go, 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 Pack, go!
Thank you, Dan. As always, great to hear from you. He made a really good point. I never think about like player of the year stuff, especially this early in the season. But he's got to be in the running. I mean,
for sure.
Granted, it's the first time in Packers history since 1970. I would love to see when the last time a defensive player did that, in the first 5 games of a season. And he potentially could not be done yet. I genuinely just, I'm looking forward to the next game to see what's going to happen. So that's going to be awesome. Wayne, were you there in 96?
I was not in LA at the game in 66, but let me admit this. I did feel that victory in my heart. Dan.
That's hilarious. There were a lot of Go Pack Goes coming from the stadium too. I mean, every commentator that I hear, or like if I'm watching previews about the game or post stuff, everybody comments about just how well the Packers travel. They love to go see their Packers play no matter where it is. I mean, we did it, last week when we went to see it in Nashville. Like, it's just, it's a fun thing to do, and it's great to meet up with people, and they really do represent. There's so much green and gold in the stadium, and it's just absolutely great to see.
And Dan added after sending in the voice message, I mentioned the last regular season win in LA being in 66, which I was not at. About a month later, January 15th, 1967, the Packers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl I in Los Angeles. No, I wasn't at that one either, but if I had a time machine, I would fix that mistake. All right, with that, let's see who else sent in some voice messages to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Good morning, Wade and Scott. Jared in Colorado calling on this awesome Victory Monday after the Packers beat the Rams in true heart attack pack fashion, but they still got the job done. A lot of really cool things to talk about with this game. Jordan Love, much improved over last week. Granted, made that really boneheaded decision with throwing a pick six instead of just taking the safety. But at the very least, but he at least didn't let it affect him. He got right back out there and just shook it off. And boy, did he have one hell of a time after that INT. I really got to give props to Jordan Love. Just his bounce back ability, not letting mistakes or momentum shifts in the game affect him. And I think that's what's really great about this team as a whole. I think the team has team just is showing a lot of mental grit. Something that I think has been missing for a number of years, even when Aaron Rodgers was still around. I think the team was really missing that. So really love seeing them be able to bounce back. Josh Jacobs got his first touchdown as a Green Bay Packer. Wild to think about, considering how much of a crucial piece Josh Jacobs is to our offense, especially with how many yards he's just putting out there each week. But hey, we finally got the tutty. Xavier is continuing his interception streak. Let's see if he's going to bring it to 6 games in a row. But I know I'm missing other highlights. It was a really solid game. But generally speaking, would love to see the Packers continue to clean things up when it comes to penalties and just overall discipline. I think they were a lot better this week than they were versus the Vikings in that respect, but definitely some room to improve. And I do wonder if the Packers were more opportunistic, a little bit more disciplined on certain drives, if it would have been a larger margin of victory for them. So looking forward to them getting back to getting their nose to the grindstone. Really important win, not just for the obvious and wanting to get to the big dance at the end of the season, but this week especially. The Lions were on bye, and the Bears and the Vikings won. So good thing that the Packers won to kind of keep in the hunt in the division. Kind of wild to think about the fact that the NFC North is the best division in football, but it's the cards that's being dealt this season. I hate to admit it, the Vikings are actually a really good football team this season, so I think the division is going to be tougher to get on top of than it has in years past. So, but I also think Packers are up for the task. So looking forward to next week. Green and gold till dead and cold. And, let's see what happens.
I can't wait to see what happens. Jared, thank you for sending that in from Colorado. Glad to hear that you and the family appear to be on the mend. And yes, between the phrases, heart attack pack, I like the phrase mental grit. Doesn't that give you a great word picture?
It does.
And I do think that we have that. And excellent point, Jared. Josh Jacobs is crucial to our offense. So these 2 free agent signings are already paying off in spades. It's beautiful to see.
I'll be the first to admit that I was a little nervous about Josh Jacobs. I thought how was he going to mesh with the younger team? He is more of a veteran, but I wanted a young star running back, and he's kind of proven that's exactly what he is, even though he's not as young as the rest of the team. So very, very happy with Jacobs. I mean, he's giving us a running game.
Yeah.
Even though we don't have the 1-2 punch of Jones and Dillon anymore, he's making up for that and then some. So really, really happy with that.
I miss A.J. Dillon. Get well soon, my friend. It would be so great to have him back. And even with Josh Jacobs not being quite as young as you were thinking we might go for running back, we're still the youngest team in the NFL. So he didn't skew the average too far. And yeah, Jared brings up the fact that it was a much needed win because everybody in our division that wasn't on a bye week, like the Lions, won. So the NFC North, in fact, I know it's early, but we're the only division in the NFL where every single team is above 500.
Wow. That's an important stat, I think. It's going to be a tough division.
Yeah. There's no losing. Every game is practically a must win to try to keep pace and catch back up to the Purple Freaks in Minnesota.
Well, how about that? We went out to LA, came back with a win. That was up and down, not necessarily the prettiest, but, a win is a win. That's what they say. This is Megan. Go Pack Go. Let's see. So McKinney's on fire. McKinney he is fire. Also, his hair. Love it. I think that helps him. He's great. He's everywhere. And he even almost got a second pick. He's on track to get 17 picks this season, probably more, minimum 17. I mean, he's awesome. He's humble about it. It's pretty cool to see. Glad we have him. Let's see. Okay, Jacobs, it was nice to see him getting a lot of touches. They didn't work Wilson in as much, but he looks good when he has the ball. Jacobs is so powerful. I've said it before. He's just he's really, really good. I feel like we're also very lucky to have him on our team. And it's nice to intermix, like unlike last week, we're not just throwing constantly, but we weren't as much in the hole. So that was a nice change. In terms of cleanliness of the game, all right, so just hear me out. I kind of view it similar to giving CPR. Like, there's a protocol, there's a way of doing things, but the manual doesn't necessarily take into account like the external and unpredictable variables that come up in any code situation. And I feel like similarly in football, they practice like these plays and do them over and over again in their heads and on the field in practice. And it's not going to go that way during the game because there's going to be things that pop up, like guys that show up or hits or whatever and blocks that they haven't accounted for. Maybe they have, but I don't know if they need to like prepare for like these unexpected things, but maybe prepare a little bit more. So like, it's never going to be perfect. I understand that. And it does look like they cleaned up things a little bit, but I just feel like if they can go into the game expecting like, this is the way we want it to go, but there is going to be things that come up that we're not prepared for, and like having that mindset so they will be better able to respond and adapt to those things might make for a cleaner game. But all in all, I felt like it did look a lot better. I felt like Jordan looked a lot better in terms of his mobility. There were like a couple misconnections, particularly with Wicks, it seemed, but it can't be perfect, and I couldn't do it better. Tucker Kraft, honestly, okay, so I've talked about him most weeks this year, and I feel like it was awesome that he got some time to shine, like just in the spotlight. He's always shining, like on the back burner, like blocking for people and stuff like that, but he doesn't necessarily get like the front and center, like he's getting these touchdowns. He's looking like a freaking beast, and I thought that was awesome. Super happy for him. Say Jaden Reed is Jaden Reed's freaking amazing. I mean, he was triple teamed and he still caught that ball. Like, what? I'm ready for next week. I'm really eager to see how the rest of the season unfolds. I'd like there to be less like heart attack kind of moments where I'm like super excited and then super nervous and up and down, but that also makes it fun. Regardless of the outcome, I'm always going to be a Packer fan watching from kickoff till there's 0 seconds left on the clock. So, back to Lambeau next week, hosting Kyler Murray. So we got a big one ahead of us. And then the week after that, I'm going to be in Lambeau. So that's going to be even better. Also, one last thing. We're the best fans in the world. It was awesome to see all the cheeseheads in the crowd, and I just love it. Green and gold time, down and cold, baby. Let's go!
Hey, Megan, thanks so much for the call. As always, it is awesome to hear from you. 17 picks in the year. Could you imagine?
What if, Scott and Megan, what if? That would definitely be fire, and he would get extra credit for the hair.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the positive comments about Tucker. Like, how often do you see your tight end get 2 touchdowns in the game, much less one of them being a 66-yarder? It's just the camaraderie seems to be building, even despite the negativity that surfaced this past week. With the player that was Dobbs was suspended for a week, just didn't go to practice, and I still don't understand all of the details about that. Like, I will not understand something like that, but I'm also not good at sports, so I'm not a star player, but I'm more of a team oriented person. But that's easy for me to say on this side of a microphone and sitting in my couch, not out on a field, putting those physical things on my body. So going to the Texans game, Megan, that's awesome. One of these times I'm going to get to go to a Packer game. When you're there, I get to meet you in person. I love meeting listeners, and I've wanted to meet her and Andre. I want to meet Andre in person. Give that man a hug.
Good stuff indeed. And Megan, that Texans game could turn out to be the toughest matchup of the year as far as the game at Lambeau Field. So savor that, enjoy it, and we appreciate the explanation and the comparisons to giving CPR the textbook way. There's too many variables and all of that. And it's kind of appropriate she brought that up this week, Scott, because it was the heart attack pack. And I just hope everybody made it through safely without palpitations and everything.
Yeah. absolutely.
And then she sent a quick PS wishing Scott Godspeed with his R2V2 convention coming up.
Oh, well, Megan, thank you very much. I would love it if you just surprised me and just showed up in Rockford to come see this video game convention. That would just make my day. I would just absolutely love it. Just saying. thegamingoutsider.com/R2V2 if you'd like more details. Moving on, we got some emails. First one comes from James. Is this James in Montana, or is his last name in fact Montana?
He's in Montana. He's not related to Hannah or anything. He's in Montana.
Or Joe. I love how we're on a football podcast and your first go-to is Hannah Montana, not Joe Montana. I don't know what that says about you, that you have grandkids, I suppose, is probably what that says.
Yes.
Anyway, James in Montana says, "Go Pack Go. Excellent bounce back week for the Packers. A win is a win. Shouldn't have been as close as it was." I will agree with that. We should have won this game by a lot more. The Romeo drama was a bit of a surprise, but I'm confident that it will be resolved. We had a similar situation in the past with Jair, and they were able to handle it without much interruption. I do love how the Packers approach these situations. Nobody's above the team, and you will be benched if necessary. I agree with that wholeheartedly as well. Team comes first. I think it had something to do with what their plan of attack was going into LA. He probably expected to be involved or featured a little more with Christian Watson being out. He was missed out there. A few of those drops by Wicks helped the Rams out. I can't say enough positive things about Xavier McKinney. Wow. Just remarkable. 5 interceptions in 5 games. Let's make it 6 next week. And props to Braden Narveson for making all of his kicks. An excellent trend in the right direction. The Cardinals could be a high-scoring game next week. I can't wait. Have a great weekend, everyone. Go Pack Go. Thank you very much, James. I appreciate the email.
Excellent stuff indeed, and well said. Thank you very much. Now let's preview that game because it'll be here before you know it. And your 3-2 Green Bay Packers are back at Lambeau Field for the first of 2 home games in a row. Going to face the 2-3 Arizona Cardinals this Sunday, October 13th at high noon Central. Green Bay Packers, as is tradition, we lead the series 46-26 and 4 ties going all the way back to November 20th, 1921. Not exactly a high-scoring game. It was a 3-3 tie with the Chicago Cardinals. They then went on to St. Louis for a bit, then settled for now in Arizona. And from October 1937 until November of 46, we won every matchup with the Cards. 15 straight victories. Can I get a Go Pack Go?
Go Pack Go indeed. I love those kinds of streaks.
That is a heck of a streak. I wish I could trade some of those wins to change the outcome of our overtime loss in the playoffs in Arizona, January of 2016. My family and I enjoyed the game. Going to that, we had a couple of vintage Aaron Rodgers Hail Marys near the end of the game just to send it into overtime. Crowd went bonkers. If only someone could have tackled the great Larry Fitzgerald as he went on to score the overtime winning touchdown catch and run. Oh, that was a dagger. And we waited a long time for that dagger. Now, of course, we did beat the Cardinals in the most recent matchup on October 28th, 2021. Also in Arizona, was lucky to attend that one as well. It's not all that long of a drive from here to get out to Phoenix, Glendale area. This was another one of those seasons where the Packers were beat up early in the season while the Cardinals were undefeated. Well, we ended that undefeated streak for them. And really, you know, Scott, I think the Cardinals have not been the same since that game. We kind of broke them.
I like that notion. I like that thought that we broke the Cardinals.
I mean, they were just looking unstoppable, and we were down some people, and, well, you never know. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. So Lambeau Field is starting to look very autumnal. It's going to be partly sunny on Sunday, starting to be perfect football weather. 61 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff, which is around 17 degrees Celsius. There's even like a 30% chance of rain showers. So it has quickly turned to autumn, and I sure wish we could have some of that out here in California. But no matter what the weather is, Scott, what are the Packers going to do so we can beat the Cardinals, get 2 wins in a row, and really start leading toward taking control of this division?
I suspect you're referring to some keys to a Packers victory over the Cardinals, Wayne. Is that correct?
Indeed, I am.
All right. Well, I got 3 of them here for you. As always, the first one, strategy number 1, exploit the front 7 of the Cardinals defense. Before the San Francisco game this past weekend, Arizona was ranked the worst team in the league for generating pressure and stopping the run. That's a massive chink in the armor that should be heavily taken advantage of. I'm a fan of what Jordan Love has been doing, and I'm happy that he got his first win of the season for certain. Really happy he was able to bounce back after the interceptions as well. But there hasn't been a better time to hit the ground running, literally. I'm not suggesting running Jacobs into the ground like we have in the past, but the easy answer this week is going to be exploiting that weak defensive line. It's absolutely a no-brainer. Number 2, get the first half under control. I've been a Packer fan long enough to know that we're traditionally a third-quarter team. I know it's a ridiculous thing to think about because it makes no sense with constantly changing rosters and coaching staff, but these last couple weeks, we've had a bit of a struggle for the first 2 quarters. While I applaud the team for coming out of the locker room after halftime, regrouped and ready to fight, things really need to tighten up in the opening moments of this game. Whatever you're doing between the second and third quarters, do it right before the game. Get in the proper mindset. It's much easier to defend a lead than to dig your way out of a deficit. Lastly, expect the run from an unexpected place. Kyler Murray opened last week with a 50-yard run, which was phenomenal. It was a big reason why they were able to topple the Niners during that game. And since it was so effective, I expect it to be a key part of the Cardinals' play calling this week. Getting that pressure is vital, as is protecting both sides of the outside line in case he tries to squirt his way through. If that is tightened up in this game, I think we can all trust the secondary to do their job if their trend continues. And if it does, I foresee a win once again.
I like the sound of that, Scott. Excellent keys to victory, as always. And yeah, there's something to be said about halftime adjustments, which we're really good at. But it sure be nice if we didn't have to have halftime adjustments.
How about pregame, let's just do it, mints?
Okay, then. Let's win that game like we did this past week. How'd we do in the old season wager of fun, Scott?
Well, if you remember last week, Wayne, you and I both predicted the exact same score. So I had to make a slight adjustment to my score. We both originally said Green Bay winning 33-24. I had to change mine. I had to decide if I was going to go Green Bay getting one more, Green Bay getting one less, or vice versa for the other with Los Angeles. I wound up taking the over-the-top one and went 34-24. Gave me a differential of 15. Unfortunately, gave you a differential of 14. So, yes, you won once again because the final score was 24-19.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
How soon before I clinch this thing?
How soon before we start calling you the Vikings?
Ouch. I'm feeling attacked.
Over on the PFP listener section, let's see. The winner this week was Jay Walters. He predicted 28-18, which was a differential of only 5 points.
Wow.
So there are our standings. We now have a 3-way tie for first place between Brett Connor, David Newman, and Jay Walters. They each have 1 win. Meanwhile, Wayne, like I said, 3-0. I have yet to win one this season. But
that's a shame.
Yeah. As for this coming week, it should come as no surprise. I am picking a Packers victory once again. I'm going to say, boy, I overshot the Packers last week, but I don't want to do it this week. I still think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both offenses are explosive, but Packers are going to end up on top, 30-21. What say you, Wayne?
I like that. I'm going to go Green Bay 31, Arizona 22. And I could be grossly underestimating the outcome of this game, but let's not go crazy. Let's see what happens.
Our picks are quite close, man.
This time.
Quite close indeed. Well, looking at the Packers Fan Podcast listener picks, everybody picked the Packers to win, which, again, is this the longest time we've gone a season without anybody picking a loss?
Yes.
It kind of feels awesome. But here are the breakdowns. Garrett Stritzel says Green Bay 31, Arizona 21. Jay Walters says 27-23. Brett Connor 27-21, and Dan Dyler 35-28.
Whoa!
He thinks it's going to be a very high-scoring game.
Lots of touchdowns. It's going to be fun to watch to see how it all comes together next Sunday. So the NFC North, Vikings are 5-0. They have their bye week this upcoming week. So that's going to make the math all crazy. It's crazy enough because the Lions are 3-1, but they were on their bye this week. So they still hold the number 2 spot because they didn't have the opportunity to lose. The Packers are 3-2 and the Bears are 3-2. It's bunch ball right now in the NFC North.
It's very, very, very tight. Although the Vikings do have that commanding lead, which is just so weird to see
and sickening.
Holy cow, that's weird to see. Some other happenings in the NFL that caught our eye this week. I got to watch the second half of the Bengals-Ravens game, which was absolutely insane. Holy cow, if you like offense, you need to watch this game. Get this, 740 total passing yards, 9 total touchdown passes, 246 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. That is 986 total yards of offense and 10 touchdowns between both teams. This game wound up in overtime with a missed field goal by Cincinnati, followed by a made field goal by Justin Tucker to win the game for Baltimore, 41-38. Total of 79 points scored.
Wowzers.
In that game. Just awesome. And if you had Joe Burrow on your fantasy football team like I did, you'll love going into overtime with your quarterback already sitting at like 35 points. So it was a pretty solid week for me.
And I had Lamar Jackson on my fantasy team, and he got about 36 points.
Crazy.
It was good. And I'm just sitting back watching the Bears fans talking like beating the Panthers is the same as beating some really tough team. Oh, and it's also cool to see the Cardinals go to Frisco to get that win because you know how I feel about the Niners. Now, of course, like you said, Scott, we cannot let them beat us at Lambeau, but one game at a time. And some of the other teams that have their bye week this upcoming week, the Chiefs, the Rams, already mentioned the Vikings, and the Dolphins are on their bye. So adjust your fantasy football teams accordingly.
Hey, at least the Vikings can't win this week.
Woohoo! And I just think the week after their bye, they're going to get their first loss, and it's going to be a downward spiral of pain and misery for Vikings fans after that.
I sure hope so. Absolutely. I want to remind everybody about my other podcast. You heard me talk about at the front of the show, The Gaming Outsider. We usually put together a new episode each and every week. However, this week we are taking a week off as we are preparing for R2V2, our convention that Wayne and Megan both mentioned earlier in the show. So forgive us for taking a week off, but things are just so busy and crazy right now. With that said, I was actually invited this past weekend to guest on my favorite podcast. And the gentleman who runs this podcast, which is called DLC, his name is Jeff Kanata. It's a video game podcast. He's my idol. He is the reason that I ever got into podcasting at all.
Oh,
I loved his delivery. I love his positive attitude, and I love his energy when he's doing podcasting. And they invited me to come onto their show this week, and it was an incredible honor. So if you would like to hear me just gush about games and joke around with some guys about video games, check out the DLC podcast. But on most weeks, you can listen to The Gaming Outsider the same place you listen to this show, or you can head to our podcast, our website at thegamingoutsider.com. And also, if you'd like more details about our convention, please come out and say hi. I would love it if some PFP people came out and said, "Hey, heard about this on PFP. We just wanted to say congrats and love to meet you in person." So more details on that are at thegamingoutsider.com/R2V2.
that would be incredible. Can't wait to hear about how it all goes.
Thanks again for using Patreon to help support the PFP. It really helps cover monthly costs, URLs, podcast hosting, and so forth. If you'd like to financially support the show through Patreon, check out the details at PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback. Supporting the PFP at the legendary Bart Star level, it's Jay Walters. Go Pack Go, and thank you, sir. At the Jordan Love Pledge level, Go Pack Go, and thank you to Dan Dyler. Love that dude.
So good. Thanks and Go Pack Go to these fine Brett Favre level patrons, Megan, Scott Bors, and Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast. And how about these Curdy Lambeau level PFP supporters? Thank you. And Go Pack Go, Joe Christensen, Hank Davis from the TPE network, and Brett Connor in the UK. If you're also interested in joining in, All the details are at PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback.
Quick reminder, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. If you could, tell a friend about the show. If you're a Packers fan, you know somebody that's a Packers fan. Do us a favor. Shoot them a quick text message and say, hey, I listen to this show, and you should too. It really helps us get the word out. We would greatly appreciate it.
Indeed. And follow us on X, which could be because Xavier McKinney is doing so well. We are at Packers Fan Pod. You can follow Scott at GoCastScott. You can follow his Gaming Outsider podcast at The GoCast, or you can follow me at Wayne Henderson. And here's our PFP community members, Megan, Andre, Joe Christensen, and Dan Dyler to send us on to another Packers victory.
Go, Pack, go!
Go, Pack, go!
Go, Pack, go! Go, 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 Pack, go!